and welcome to BizTalks. Glad that you've joined us for our inaugural show, 2024. So happy New Year if you haven't really seen us on air, but thank you so much for your time. Now, the conversation we're about to have is very relevant. That's the word I can only use because we're talking about matters AI, seeing a lot of things that are happening, and businesses are worried, and some are also taking advantage of it. And the question is, what lies in the future, and even now, for you, and what can you tap into? And in the house, we have Moses Kemibaro, the founder and CEO of Savvy. And we want to ask him or discuss with him about the realm of AI, its influence on the business landscape, and just get a few tidbits on what to do. And yeah, as usual, we want to ask him, apart from his name, if people ask him who he is, who is he? Moses, welcome to the show first.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, that's the first question I like asking. When people ask who Moses is, who do you say you are?
Well, there's many things. I wear many hats.
Yeah.
In work, I'm the founder and CEO of Savvy. Savvy is a digital marketing agency that I started in my one-bedroom home many, many years ago. The company's been around for 21 years.
Wow.
And we started in the era of initially, building websites and so forth. Today, we do more work in areas like social media, digital advertising, and hopefully in the course of the year, we hope to launch an AI side of our business where we'll be helping organizations understand and also implement AI initiatives within the organizations.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And let me jump straight to the conversation. One of the key things that now everybody knows, everybody says now, everybody has the term AI on them. But I always take the benefit of doubt for anybody who wants to really understand from the definitions. What's AI and what is this thing that everybody's talking about? How can you easily define it for people?
So AI, like I mentioned, is something that is not that new. Organizations and technology businesses have been trying to utilize AI for a long time. AI has been in platforms like Facebook for many, many years. When you find somebody who's connected to you, that's AI. When you are going for a meeting and Google Maps tells you leave in 5-10 minutes, so you make it on time, that is also AI. And the big transition that we're seeing is not so much that AI that works in the background, but rather what they're calling generative AI, right? And generative AI is where you're able to use AI to actually create things. And more specifically, when we talk about the AI or the generative AI moment, without a doubt, November of 2022 was the time when everything changed, when ChatGPT was launched. ChatGPT became one of the fastest adopted technologies in the world ever in terms of how people took it up. And what made ChatGPT so interesting is that ChatGPT is built on something called a large language model. And a large language model is where an AI is trained using something called machine learning to deliver or predict certain outcomes based on the input you give it. So when you go to ChatGPT, we prompt it to the question in human language, in normal, regular communication, and using its LLM, it's able to then understand what we are trying to ask and give us a specific response. You also have different types of AIs in terms of what we call a multimodal input model, where you can use either text, you can use an image, you can even use your voice or audio to prompt an AI to give you a generated outcome. Now, the significance of this is that all of this is moving towards a new era, which we call AGI. Basically, it's going to be a new form of AI that's as smart as human intelligence. We're quite a few years away from that. But in the interim period, we're seeing AI transforming everything from marketing to things like medical care, to engineering and so forth, where AI provides almost a support system or a way of sort of augmenting what we're able to do as humans to achieve better outcomes through the work that we do.
Wow. It's quite a mouthful. I had a lot. I've had so many questions. But simply put, I like the way you're saying it's already, we're seeing a lot of creatives even adopting it, all that. And I wanted to ask you the impact. Let's talk about the impact and what you're seeing already on the ground, especially to businesses and especially in the creative side.
So marketing is obviously where I operate. I run a company in marketing. And probably the biggest debate area right now that we're seeing is the fact that a lot of big organizations, including Safaricom, are now using creatives that have been created using AI.
That's so sad, man. I was just thinking about all the models and the beautiful people we have.
I know, but you see, as a business, they're sitting down and experimenting, right? So I wrote about this extensively online. Safaricom even reached out about it, and a lot of creative people in the marketing space responded.
What are they saying? That
they're worried because a lot of the work that now we see being generated through AI on the billboards, if you saw the festive season, all of the creative that was done for Safaricom was all AI generated.
Absolutely, yeah.
That means a lot of people who normally would have been photographers, art directors, copywriters, and so forth, this would have been done using actual humans.
Yeah.
But now they're creating these creatives using AI systems and essentially not passing on that work. But you see, if you look at it from Safaricom's point of view, it's stuff that is pretty good. You're able to do it a lot cheaper. It's faster to turn around. Obviously, an end user would look at it and see that this is not an actual human, but the creative is good enough to do the work, and you're seeing it on billboards and social media. The other day, there's also a big hula baloo online with Kura, the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, who had also used an AI image to demonstrate or showcase their work. Frankly, I saw it and I was like, wow, this is better than anything Kura has ever posted on social media because it's well designed and well presented, but then at a fraction of the cost of shooting that professionally. So the big debate now is that people in the marketing spaces in Kenya are asking themselves this question: if our clients are using AI generated creative for advertising and marketing, what does this mean for those traditional jobs that have been there all along? And it's not just static images. You can create videos, you can do animation using AI. And in fact, the qualities are getting so good that at some point we're going to not be able to discern whether it was done by an AI or an actual human. It's simply a matter of time.
Now, pause there, because now this saddens me a bit. I'm in the industry as well, so as you can tell, one of the things that I don't like is the number of people in the chain that will have to be dropped off. Just think of that billboard, for example. There was a model, there was a makeup artist, there was a hairstylist, there was a photographer, the model themselves, I mean, the studios, everything else, all those dropped by a click of a button. That's what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, no way. Especially when you talk about animation and the work that goes to it. I mean, it takes weeks to come up with these characters and all that, and now you're generating these things very fast and all that. Is this not a concern? Where are all these guys going to go?
Let me give you an example of what happened in Absa Bank a few years ago. Okay, when Jeremy Awori was the CEO in Kenya, they decided to pursue an AI approach called robotic process automation. What robotic process automation is where you essentially train a system to know how it's done. In this case, Absa decided to use robotic process automation for loan processing. This used to be a department of humans that used to sit down, and when you applied for a loan, would open their computer, look at all these criteria, probably check with CRB, etc., and at the end of it, they decide whether or not they're going to give you a loan. It was time consuming, it was very subjective, it was not practical the way they were doing it. They could not scale it up in the manner that of the applications that they were receiving for loans. So they understood the processes, they mapped them to what they call robotic process automation, gave it criteria, and now when you apply for a loan in Absa, it's software that does most of the processing to understand whether or not to grant you a loan using different parameters and data points.
Wow.
What happened then is that entire department disappeared. Those employees were retrained and they became front office staff within Absa. That is a very real case where jobs were lost, but within the functions of the organization where a human interaction is more important than software, those people were retrained for that. I'll give you another example that I discovered last night when I was attending an event. I met somebody who's a CIO in one of the hospital groups in the country. They had a way of using, I think, MRI images when they scan your body, so that if they know you have a broken bone and they want to see what the situation is on X-ray, it would normally be a test that costs 25,000 shillings, and then they'll tell you what to do next based on what they're seeing. They now have dropped that cost down to 600 shillings using AI, where there's software, you input that image, and it shows you that this is a break and recommends. But ultimately, the doctor or the person who's an expert comes back and says, this is how we'll solve this problem. But here's the interesting thing. They've now discovered when you put it in, the AI also understands other things happening around that particular bone. And it might even be able to tell you that actually, based on the tissue we're seeing here, we've noticed some abnormal cells. So now it's even surfacing other medical issues that person might have that are irrespective of the bone and the fracture. Now, so not only has cost gone down by over 1,000%, but the quality of the medical diagnosis has even improved. It's been escalated. So we're not just seeing the potential to reduce costs, we're now even enhancing the output of the expert, the doctor in this case, who's interpreting that information and being able to give better care to the patient or the person who's come for help.
Yeah. Now, pause there because you're seeing very good things. But I'm also concerned because everything has its extremes.
Yes.
I paraphrase guys like Elon Musk who are concerned saying, guys, we need to stop. We need to stop. He's on record saying that. These are renowned persons saying these kind of things. What are your thoughts? I mean, what are we expecting in the future as we keep adopting these technologies? In as much as they are good, you can tell there's a red line somewhere.
So I have a quote, or rather a statement that I made recently, and it sort of caught on. I say, don't give a human a robot's job. Okay? The reality is very simple. AI is going to take over certain jobs. Things that maybe are time-consuming, mundane, like the robotic process automation I mentioned about APSA. Are these things really that humans should be doing? Can they be doing something more meaningful and practical with their time? Something that actually engages their intellect in a way that actually brings value? And I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of lower level functions and tasks being migrated to AI because it can do a better job and it can do it probably better than the human could in terms of what is required. But also, one of the things that I keep hearing, Bill Gates has said it, Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of a company called NVIDIA. NVIDIA supplies a very powerful chip called the H100 that powers all the AI technologies that we're seeing in the world. We're hearing people like, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta saying this. And lastly, also Satya Nadella all saying one thing consistently. And this is something that I picked up in December. They're all saying AI, generative AI, is going to be bigger than the internet itself. Now, when you hear the experts and the people providing the tools and the platforms and the technologies to support this, say this, you have to ask yourself a question. What do they know? What have they understood of the bigger picture?
Something they know.
And I think what I'm trying to say is that just like I talked about the medical use case, that you're able to provide better service, better outcomes at a much lower cost, that is where the transformation is happening, right? AI can actually be an enabler of better performance for people. More productive, better equipped, more accurate, and ultimately more cost effective for the stakeholders. So I think rather than fighting it and sort of crying about the jobs we're going to lose, what are the new opportunities that will present themselves through this technology? That means there are going to be new types of jobs, new type of roles where, yes, you're a lawyer, yes, you're a doctor, yes, you're an engineer, but you now use a lot of AI to execute what you've done all along. So it's amplifying your skill set. It's adding value. It's augmenting you to the next level. But it means then that you stop doing the robot's job and you do what the human is supposed to do. Does that make sense?
It is. It is. As you can tell, I'm trying to also battle what you say. One of the things that I'm thinking about this whole AI thing is that the technical skills, really down to earth technical skills, are probably what will remain. I don't know, because there's been a lot of this high level kind of jobs, like you've mentioned, lawyers, all those kind of things, that all of a sudden, I mean, we have seen the AI pass these particular exams, medical exams, all those kind of things, medical equipment now being put into AI systems and all that, and you're thinking, okay, so what next? I don't know, I can't even predict that. But anyway, let's move on a bit. And I saw a billboard, I think it was Superloaf, one of the bread companies, right? And the image they used, I think I'd seen that image, months back, of a similar one, but they didn't have the bread. And I thought, are there copyright things here or something of that sort? Is there something like that governing AI?
So these are some of the ethical and intellectual property issues that we're seeing. I actually wrote about that on my social media the other day, because the image that Superloaf used is exactly the same image that had been generated by AI that was circulating online. In that image, the child actually had a chicken and the mother was chasing them.
Absolutely.
So what they did is they transposed the image, they flipped it, it became a mirror image of the same, and where they had the chicken, they superimposed a loaf of bread from Superloaf. And actually, if you zoom into the bread, you'll also notice the Superloaf is actually, there's a typo in it, which is hilarious. But clearly what they did is they used a piece of AI, an existing piece of creative. I don't know what the intellectual property implications are of that, because AI typically is trained to use existing images to create new images. So already there's a huge debate globally around intellectual property being repurposed for other outputs. But there you are. Obviously for them, it means that they are able to come up with something that looked really good. Somebody had created, online at some point using AI. and had a billboard which cost them probably a lot less money than using, photo shoot and all the things that typically would have gone into that when Superlow Food is designing that campaign.
Yeah.
And I think this trend is going to only increase. But a question we need to ask ourselves is, what is the story around intellectual property?
Yeah.
What is the story around using creative things without necessarily giving credit to the party who came up with it? What is the story around the fact that there might be serious question marks around regulation about how things are being done? And I think already the president in Kenya has asked for an AI task force or body to actually start looking at this, regulating, because already the impacts are being felt. We are hearing stories about students in school and university who are submitting theses and so forth using content generated via AI.
Yeah.
Right? This is real. This is happening right here in Kenya.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
So as all this is happening, I think there are going to be many debates and things, and I tend to think that we're in a wild, wild west moment of AI globally, where rules are not clear, things are very vague. There are going to be a lot of question marks. There are going to be a lot of cases. We even know there's a case that has been launched, I think, by the New York Times with OpenAI, because they found that a lot of their content has been powered, ChatGPT has been powered using content from the New York Times without any consent or payment for training their model using the intellectual property.
Wow.
So these are things that are going to get very, very hot very soon, because suddenly the question is going to be, at what point is that line crossed, and what are the compensations where things are being used without consent by those who own the original IP?
Wow. Let me ask you, you're in business as well, you're in marketing, you've been seriously affected, I believe, by all these advents of AI. What are you doing, and what's your advice for corporates or businesses that are still battling, okay, this thing is taking away my business?
Now, let me talk about it from possibly two perspectives. On one hand, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I currently have a team of over 10 people who are employed by us. We provide a variety of digital marketing services. So let me give you one example of how we are using AI. When it comes to things like social media, you are required by many clients to create something called a content calendar. A content calendar allows you to sort of plan and schedule content for social media purposes.
Absolutely.
Using ChatGPT, for instance, you're able to prompt and generate sometimes what would normally take you 2 days if you did it in the traditional manner in a matter of minutes. Now, of course, it's never perfect. And I always tend to think that AI takes you probably 60, 70% of the way there. The remaining 30% is the human. It's almost like you provide the finishing touch. You provide the tonality, the quality that sits on top of what has been generated through the AI. Of course, in the image space, you're seeing that people are now using AI to create images. There are websites like leandro.ai where you get beautiful images, or even Bing, giving you almost photographic quality images once you prompt it that are good enough for advertising. So what are you doing there? And I have an acronym that I've come up with since this AI thing became a thing. And I call it FESBEC. Right? So FESBEC is several things. Number one, with AI, it allows you to do things faster. Okay?
Absolutely.
So the speed, the turnaround. Think about Safaricom. They had to do a campaign. How long did it actually take them to come up with those images? If they're doing shoots and all, they probably have to be done months before. Chances are they did this within a week. They approved them, and they're on billboards and social media. The second thing is ease or easier. All right? So AI makes things easier. That means the amount of effort required to achieve a certain outcome becomes much, much easier. The second thing is simpler. Okay? AI, I've seen, allows you to even take massive amounts of content, even just ChatGPT, put them in there and say, simplify or condense. And it's able to take what maybe would have been a massive effort and does it in a matter of seconds.
Absolutely.
All right? So you're simplifying the process. The fourth thing, which is very, again, possibly controversial, is it makes you smarter. And why I say this is because when you start using AI, you realize that in terms of the actual things that you're creating and the things you're doing, it almost acts like a second brain, like an assistant. So it's literally making you smarter, at least in terms of the outputs you're generating, in a way that you could not have done yourself. Okay?
Wow.
Another thing that I found with AI is what now I call the better. The general outputs that you actually put out through AI are actually better than what you could have done yourself. And the last thing, which is probably the most important thing for businesses and people in our space, is it ends up being cheaper. Okay, that's the CEO of FESPEC.
Absolutely.
So the cheaper part is probably the biggest overriding reason you will see a lot of organizations migrate to using this for things like marketing and so forth, or even the hospital group I told you about. You know, from 25 shillings to 600, and it is still more profitable than the way they did it before. So this is disruptive stuff. It changes everything and anything, and it's cross-cutting. It's not just about marketing. It's medical services, it's engineering, it's building. You name it, AI can do it.
So many questions, but we have time is not on our end.
Yes.
But just hold up, because I don't think there's an industry you've missed out. Education, you've talked about medical, you've talked about, I mean, almost everything. So my question is, what will AI not replace?
I think,
it's nice.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, honestly, I don't have a clear answer for that, because I think the way, you know, like I talked about artificial general intelligence, the point where AI will be as smart as a human being.
Yeah.
We think this thing is probably maybe 5-10 years away. Nobody knows for sure, right?
Wow.
But at that point, AI will essentially be able to do anything that a human used to do. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think the human role and the human part is going to be that element about providing the authenticity and the quality that a computer can never bring you. Like I said, even when you use things on AI, it takes you maybe 60-70% of the way there. The 30% is still the human. The discernment, the understanding that a human has 5 fingers instead of 6 fingers. If you see a lot of AI outputs, you'll notice that fingers are a problem when you see the visual outputs.
Yeah.
So these things, of course, will be sorted out. But over time, I think the human is going to start doing other things on top of AI that only a human can do. And I think for the young people today is to figure out what is that next step. Yeah, these things are going to be replicated or done by AI. What is that 30% that I bring to the formula? And if I'm a photographer, maybe it's about merging photography with AI. If I'm a doctor, it's about figuring out that if this thing can read and interpret X-ray images or MRI images in a way that I can't, and it's able to surface things that I can't even see as a human, what is my next level of value addition or purpose in terms of what I provide to the medical sphere?
Wow.
In fact, there's even something I saw that NVIDIA, the guys who are creating these AI chips that everyone is buying for their AI platforms, you can build an entire virtual factory within an AI model called the Omniverse. And NVIDIA is putting this forward. So before even you build a factory, you can optimize it and perfect it in a virtual space with everything captured using AI. And the AI will optimize how this thing is going to actually work, how to put the equipment in a certain way. So if you think about it from that point of view, then the cost savings are going to be massive for almost every kind of situation we can see. But the human will always bring the pieces that the AI cannot. The original thinking. Because remember, AI is trained on human thought, but it doesn't think for itself as such. And more importantly, the ingenuity that even created AI to begin with came from humans. So we need to start thinking about what are the other things that we bring to the table that the AI cannot replicate.
Wow. Let me ask you, because I'm actually also worried about the current generation and even the one that is coming up. Right now, some people are battling on how can we keep phones out of kids, and it's quite
it's a big debate.
It's a debate, yes. Now that we are here in the era of AI, where almost like critical thinking is just getting trashed, and there's no creativity that would come out when I can just type as easy as that and then get all the answers and all that. How do we need to position ourselves so that even the education system, because it can't still afford to be what we were teaching at this particular era, what do you see? What should we probably predict that should be happening now so that at least we are training our generation for this future that is now?
I think the foundational skills are still important. As you know, I'm involved in EdTech Mondays Kenya. This is one of the debates we've been having around the impact of technology on education. If you're able to do so much using technology that some of the skill sets that were considered to be essential are now within some sort of technology. I think we still need to make sure that our kids have the foundational skills. They need to know how to do the basic maths. They need to know how to structure a sentence. They need to have the critical thinking skills that you've mentioned to do stuff. But the reality is that in the new dispensation, we need to ask ourselves, as we educate our children, how are we also training them to utilize these platforms whilst at the same time still developing those fundamental skills? Meaning that if you layer on the foundational thinking and what they do with these platforms and how they use them, I still think they can still bring the same level of thinking and quality, but now mapped towards a context where AI is in everything. I remember when I was growing up, for instance, in high school, we used to have something called logbooks. Logbooks is what, if you're doing mathematics and all, you use to, now the same courses you're allowed, in fact, you need to bring a calculator. So if you talk to my parents' generation, they'll not understand how you could bring a calculator. Now it's normal. The next thing is they're saying you can have the laptop, but if you don't fundamentally understand that particular concept, you can't even do the task because the computer will not help you. You need to understand how it actually works. So I think the foundational skills and the know-how needs to be there, but it needs to be mapped to a world where AI is part and parcel of everything that we do. And none of us know what that's going to look like, but what's inevitable is that it's going to happen.
At the NSC, I was speaking to one of the brokerage firms, and they have adopted what they're calling algorithmic trading, where now generating all this content about numbers, the genesis of a company, everything else. Now it's no longer a reserve of someone sitting down to now advise you. That just by a click of a button, they can tell you buy this, buy that, because this is the prediction that they have. And you're like, wow, it's touching every corner. We're coming to a close, and I wanted you to give a parting shot. I don't know whether I've left this conversation more satisfied or more confused. That's the best word to say. But what would be your part?
Spent a lot of time trying to understand the AI space over the last few months. Where is this going? What's going to happen? What I know is that it's going to touch everything. So my parting shot would be, rather than trying to corral or hold back AI, you need to figure out how to use it. It's going to live and breathe in everything you do. Like you said, education, healthcare. If I'm a business entrepreneur, the questions I'll be asking, let's say in marketing, is, do I actually need 4 social media managers? Maybe I just need 2, because 2 can now do the work of 4 because of AI. That means lower costs, yet higher productivity. I think about situations where you might have a team and you realize maybe an employee is a B versus somebody else who's clearly an A. With AI, the B player can become an A player because it helps them close the gap. There are those questions. Some of them are somewhat ethical, but it's inevitable. So if it is inevitable, rather than fighting it, you need to start using it. And of course, as you can see, Microsoft recently launched something called Copilot. Copilot is basically going to infuse AI capabilities across everything like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Teams, etc. That means your business processes are going to be optimized for AI, which means better outcomes, cheaper outcomes, higher quality, more productivity, as it were. So because it is inevitable, you need to start preparing and being compatible with this new future. And I like to use the analogy of, don't bring a sword to a gunfight, right? We're going to have a situation where organizations are going to have 2, 3, 4x advantage where they've decided to improve their business using AI. If you're competing in the same space and you're still doing things the old way, you're going to lose. So you need to start understanding it, immerse yourself in it, look at your business processes, audit how you currently do things, and reimagine and start to implement workflows and things that you do as an organization that are now driven through AI, or at least supported by them. And that would be my parting shot.
Can I confess something? So as we were talking, I put my questions to the ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT, can you give me more? But the extra ones they have given me are quite similar to what we have addressed. So I feel we are still needed.
At least for the next 5, 10 years, yes. And remember, this is a moving target. It keeps changing, it keeps evolving. Nobody has the answers yet. But they're speculating and imagining that certain things are definitely going to happen.
And by the way, on the same thing of ChatGPT, there's 3.5, which is just general for everybody, and there's 4. What's the difference? I'm sure you have interacted with the 4.
I pay for 4. It's $20 a month. So it is very good.
What's in there? What's in there? Better or what?
It's multimodal. You can put in different types of inputs. The quality of the database is more current in terms of the information that it's using to surface responses. It's more up to date. I think the other one was 2021. This one is up to 2023 now.
Wow.
That again means that it knows things from now. And just generally the quality of the outputs are better. And again, competitive advantage. If you're using ChatGPT for business or work, you want to use the latest model that's available.
Moses, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. So I'm sure this conversation has not come to an end because there are so many things that are popping up now and then. And thank you so much for really being at the forefront of really educating us. And by the way, if guys wanted to follow you, how do they follow you?
Well, there's so many places. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as Moses Kemibaro. You can find me. Also run moseskemibaro.com, which is my blog. And I really do share a lot of stuff there. And if you go onto Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify, I also have a podcast called The Pure Digital Passion, where I share insights on technology and things like this as well.
Okay. Wow, there you have it. That's BizTalks for the inaugural show, AI. Just be careful and be on alert, as he has said. Thank you so much for your time. Let's keep working. Bye-bye.